everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and welcome once again to the vast and ominous comic book vault. It's time once again for new acquisitions. I've got just 4 new books for you this week, and at the end of the show, we'll go to Dan Torrey, who has some more books Captain Logan didn't read. Right now, let me start off with a couple IDW books, and the first one is Star Trek Countdown to Darkness #1. This is written by Mike Johnson with some plotting help by Roberto Orci. Of course, Orci and Kurtzman writing these books, and I think Orci and Kurtzman both helped plot the first Countdown. I guess Orci's working on this one. And then the artist is, again, David Messina, who drew the first one. And boy, I love his art. It's real crisp and clean when he's on the ship, and then when they go down to the kind of desert world, it gets a little bit less flashy, and I really like that. So what we've got here is a book that seems to be trying to kind of ride on the success of the previous prequel, because Countdown was pretty popular for an IDW book, and I know I really liked it. It was pretty critically acclaimed, and it seems like they figure, well, we better put Countdown in this title too for this prequel. But I like the title, even though I don't really care for the title of Star Trek Into Darkness. Countdown to Darkness makes a lot of sense, and I also like that it doesn't seem like it's a title that makes sense. We are counting down to this movie. It's Countdown to Darkness, and lo and behold, there's no darkness in this book. This is very much about trying to make the Abrams universe look more like the original series, and so it brings that kind of flashiness and that action and that quick-paced momentum, but it's also kind of bringing the ideas back, and I really hope that some of that is in the new movie. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, and I definitely have my reservations about the new film and about who the villain seems like it might be and things like that. But regardless of all of that, my hope is that is that the Star Trek that's in this book will translate to the new movie. What we've got here is Spock feeling somewhat guilty and, of course, remorseful about the destruction of Vulcan and the death of his mother, and he has bad dreams about it, and he has a difficult time dealing with it, and the way he's trying to live with it is to kind of purge his human side and let his Vulcan side take over completely, and this is a much more stoic Spock than we saw in the first film, and I hope that too translates to the new movie. The whole idea of him trying to purge his human side, that starts with the motion picture, and of course Spock always saw himself more as Vulcan than he did as human, and I like the idea that maybe that's going on here, but for a very different reason than it did originally. I find that very interesting. We've also got a Kirk here who's very wet behind the ears, who's got a little bit of Archer in him right now. He's trying really hard to he wants to explore, you know. He's trying to enjoy his job, but his job requires a lot of these kind of boring survey missions where you just go to a planet and you're stuck in orbit and you don't get to beam down because you'd be violating the Prime Directive, because the people who are down below are too primitive to make first contact with, and that's what we have going on here. He goes to this planet, and Spock urges him not to go down because it would break the Prime Directive, and I mean, I'm really glad to see the Prime Directive and these kinds of ideas again in the J.J. Abrams universe here, and again, I don't know if all of that's going to translate to the new movie, but I sure hope that it would, and so there's this energy signature they get from the planet's surface, and Kirk decides that they need to go down after all, and the end of the book is a revelation of a character that if you are a big Star Trek fan, you will have at least heard of, and I'm very intrigued to see where this goes. This has every chance of being as good or better than the original Countdown, and I hope that unlike the first Countdown, this can maybe tells us a little bit about what the tone of the new film is going to to be. Anyway, I really enjoyed this, and I hope that this keeps going in the direction that it seems like it's going. I also like that it's got some nods to some original series episodes. There's a mention of Archons, and that's kind of fun. So anyway, quite good. I really recommend this. Next up, Ninja Turtles: Secret History of the Foot Clan #2. Once again, the thing I love the most about this series is that and by the way, I had no idea that this was going to come out every week. This came out last week. It's out this week. I guess they're going to put it out every week till it's done, I would assume. But anyway, what I like most about this series is that it's not just telling us a flashback narrative about the Foot Clan. That's in there, and we want that. Boy, do we want that, so that we understand this history between Shredder and Splinter and what all this reincarnation stuff is about. But it's also telling a present-day story, and it's about the Ninja Turtles trying to rescue this historian who knows all of this stuff about the Foot Clan and has all this information, and seems to have... There's somewhat of an artifact plot here. He seems to have a book, and that this ancient book that tells him a lot about the Foot Clan, and it's somewhat of a mystery about how he knows what he knows. And Shredder gets his hands on him, and so the Ninja Turtles are trying to rescue this guy, and I really like all of the panel time that we get with the Turtles in this, and there's a whole lot of really fun banter between them, and Burnham is great with banter. We've seen a lot of this kind of stuff in the Ghostbusters series. He translates that here, and he's got kind of what I see as kind of movie Ninja Turtle banter going on here, and he also, like Eric Burnham likes to do, has some kind of fun callbacks to old Ninja Turtle, not lore, but pop culture stuff. He brings in the Donatello Does Machines bit, and he does it by having Does Machines be Donatello's computer screen name. I think that's great. And we get some excellent and really intriguing revelations about the relationship that Shredder and Splinter had before, of course, they were Shredder and Splinter. And I won't give away exactly what we learn about Oroku Saki in this, but it's really, really intriguing and has a lot to do with this whole reincarnation bit. All in all, this is still really interesting and now really exciting. This ends with what's about to be this giant battle with Shredder and the Turtles. I didn't expect to see that kind of stuff in this book. I thought this was just going to be a big flashback thing, and that it was just going to be a 4-part series of us in feudal Japan learning about all this stuff. So this is really, really important for the current book, crucial to understanding what's going on in that book. And if you're not reading this, but you are reading the regular Ninja Turtle book, I urge you to get this in trade when it comes out. And being IDW, it's likely to come out pretty quickly. Next up, I've got a couple of Marvel books for you. Here is Uncanny Avengers #3. Red Skull is just totally out there right now. He's completely twisted and totally out of his gourd. Red Skull has, of course, as you know if you've been reading this, grafted his own brain to Professor Xavier's brain. And so now he has Professor Xavier's ability. And he is mind-controlling humans to hate mutants and trying to bring back some bizarre version, not that it wasn't already bizarre, of the Nazi regime, trying to make people think that human beings are superior to mutants. And it's really weird because, of course, he's now barely human himself since he's used Professor Xavier's brain to make this happen. He's actually kind of, in a sense, made himself a mutant. I'm not entirely sure what Red Skull believes so much as what he's saying. I have a very difficult time believing that he really thinks that humans are superior to mutants, given that he being a Nazi, he's all about the superior man. He's all about make the strong survive. If anything, it seems like it would make more sense that he would want to pass himself off as a mutant and then go kill all the lowly humans. But that's not what he's doing. And it seems like it's the whole thing's all about mind control and passing off this bizarre idea of pure blood versus tainted mutant blood and this sort of thing. So I'm really enjoying that, and just the totally ridiculous notions that he's able to get away with because he has Professor Xavier's brain and he can mind control. And I think that's what this is all about, is just the classic idea of that great power that would be used for terrible evil if it fell in the wrong hands, or in this case, in the wrong head. And there's a lot of talk about that, especially toward the end. What if Professor Xavier had not been a benevolent man? What if Professor Xavier had not been a great man? What if he had not been an intelligent man? And now he's gone, but his powers linger, and it's a terrifying notion. Also terrifying is the idea that Professor Xavier was so powerful that the strongest-willed person might not be able to completely resist him. And we have that with Captain America here, where Red Skull is trying to mind control Captain America, and he keeps breaking Red Skull's hold on him, but then it keeps coming back, and it's really hard for him to not fight his friends because of this. One thing I am really kind of wondering about with this is just this lineup. I'm still not real sure I buy this team lineup, and I kind of think because Thor and Captain America and Wolverine are on so many different Avengers teams, it seems like it would have made a lot more sense if they had maybe helped set this team up and then left, and then let this team be on its own. I'm not really digging this idea of Havoc giving Captain America orders. I get what Captain America is doing to a point. He wants Havoc to lead the team to show the general populace that mutants are okay. That just because of what Scott Summers did, that doesn't mean that all mutants are that way. And I like that idea. It's far-fetched to me that Captain America would put himself on the team after that. It would make more sense if they went on maybe a couple missions. Captain America kind of helped, get Havoc initiated as an Avenger and then left. But that's not what happens here. No, he makes himself a subordinate to Havoc. Now, it's interesting seeing Captain America take orders. I'm not saying that there aren't interesting things Remender does with this. I just find it a little far-fetched that with everything else Captain America probably has to do, and with, in other Avengers teams and things like that, that he would that he would take this time to be bossed around by Havoc. But I also really like that we're getting this idea that's creeping in here a little bit, that maybe Captain America doesn't really like mutants that much. I mean, he's trying, he gets both sides of this. He's not totally black and white, and yet he has this very old world way of looking at things, and maybe the idea is to a degree that mutant kind doesn't entirely fit into his worldview, into his World War II era American dream kind of box, and he's trying to work through that. He's trying to not be that way, but when Red Skull starts to mind control him, those feelings come out a little bit, and I found myself wondering if he was just saying what Red Skull told him to, or if some of that was actually in his brain somewhere. And the problem with mind control is that sometimes it's really hard to tell that. If it's not actual character development, it doesn't really matter. It's not very interesting. It's just a lot of words that are being spoken. So I hope that comes back into play more later, because I really kind of like the idea that Captain America is naturally prejudiced against mutants and is trying really hard not to be that way. I find that really interesting and believable, and I kind of hope that that's what he's doing with it. Anyway, all in all, really, really great issue, and really, really terrifying kind of issue. I also really like Wolverine's reaction when he finally finds out what happens. What happened with Professor X's brain getting grafted on a Red Skull, and it's vintage Wolverine. Anyway, this is one of the most exciting books I'm reading right now, and I think everybody really ought to be picking this up. It's been late a lot. I'm glad it finally came out. But anyway, so Uncanny Avengers number 3, and finally this week, briefly I want to talk about Deadpool Killistrated number 1. This is written by Cullen Bunn and illustrated by Matteo Loli, who I don't know. I'm not sure if he's the one. I don't think he did Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, but I honestly don't remember who drew that. Anyway, so this is a sequel to Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, and this is a fun premise, but I'm just not sure I buy it as a sequel to Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. This seems like a bit of a step back to me from what I thought was a really compelling and interesting idea with that book. I did a review of it, and I won't rehash my whole review, but what was really cool about Deadpool versus the Marvel Universe for me was that it was all about this idea that the joke with Deadpool is over, and it's taking the jokey Deadpool and making him something actually really scary, because he gets that he is a character now in a fictional universe, and he's trying to get through all the layers of fiction, of creativity and imagination, and get to the real world and the people that are creating these characters, and as he feels, screwing with their lives and not allowing them to live natural lives. These characters that have to constantly get killed and come back to life, and all this kind of soap opera and drama and stuff that happens. And at the end of Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, he finds a version of Cullen Bunn. And it ends with him saying he's going to go kill Cullen Bunn, and then he's coming after Oz. This is kind of a step back from that, where instead of going further through the layers from there, because, I mean, that's as I said in that review, it's a little bit meta, but it seems to me like if you have a real Cullen Bunn who wrote that book, then he made a fictional Cullen Bunn who fictionally wrote the Deadpool parts of his fictional book. It's a fiction within a fiction within a fiction. And here, there's no mention of that. There's no mention of him killing that fictional Cullen Bunn that created Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, or his part of it. Instead, he goes and kills the rest of the Marvel universes at the beginning of this. We find out that he's gone to throughout the multiverse, and he's killed all these different versions of all these Marvel characters, and now he's trying to get to the rest of what they're calling the Ideaverse. And again, I think that's really kind of strange, because it seems like at the end of that first book, I got the sense that he was already kind of there, that he was like trying to peel back the rest of the layers of reality, and that he wouldn't have to go through more of the Marvel multiverse. I thought that was the whole point of the portal at the end and where he went, but according to this, apparently not. And now he's trying to get there through destroying the archetypes that created these Marvel characters in the first place. So going to the classic characters that existed before the Marvel characters existed. The idea being that if you kill them, you could not possibly have these Marvel characters. I think that's a really fun idea. I think if this had been the first thing and we didn't have Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, that would have made a lot of sense. But as a sequel, I feel like Cullen had to kind of change the premise a little bit. There's still a lot of really fun ideas in this, and I'm still going to read it, and I'm sure I'm going to thoroughly enjoy it. We've got this kind of fun notion of Deadpool pulling together a bunch of mad scientists from the Marvel Universe, or from one of them anyway, and keeping them around to help him figure out how to destroy the Ideaverse, and I really liked that idea. And he's a lot of fun, and he's really funny in this. I think that first book was more about making Deadpool a terrifying character, and this seems more like, at least his first issue, that he's taking the jokey Deadpool that people really like and letting him kind of do his thing while destroying fictional characters in classic novels, starting with Moby Dick. And then the next place he's about to go that's revealed at the end is really fun, and I'm looking forward to it. So all in all, this is a really fun read. I'm just not sure that I entirely buy the premise of it. And now it's time to jump over to Dan Torrey, who's going to talk about some books that I didn't read.
Hi everybody, I just rolled out of bed, and I think that means it's time for new comic reviews. We're first going to start off with a book that I wasn't really anticipating picking up this week, but I got it purely because of the creative team and the cool cover that was available at my comic shop. This is Young Avengers #1. This one is by Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey, and the cover is by Brian Lee O'Malley of Scott Pilgrim fame. I thought it was just really cool that he was doing Marvel work, and I wanted to own this. I'm a big fan of what I've read of Scott Pilgrim, so it was cool to get this. But other than that, I really wanted to try a Kieran Gillen written book from Marvel now because I really enjoyed his run on Uncanny X-Men when it was relaunched after Schism. I had sort of dropped off the book for a while after Fraction had left and then came back when it was relaunched because I was really excited about X-Men at that point. I would have tried the Iron Man book, but the fact of the matter is with me, Iron Man's a character that I don't really care about too much in the comics, and Greg Land's the artist on that, so that kept me even farther away. The only other option, I believe, was Young Avengers, so I indulged this week because it was a small week already anyway. I only had a few books, so I figured why not give this a shot. Now, before I get into the review, I just want to say I've never read a Young Avengers comic in my life before reading this one. I am, however, aware of how loved and respected the previous run by Heinberg and Jimmy Chung was, and after reading this, I really want to give that run a look, but I think it was good personally for me to not have that stuff shadow cast over this as I was reading it, because it served as a very good introduction to these characters that I'll sort of speak to later on. But I think this is very accessible, even if you haven't read that stuff. And I can speak to that, obviously, because I haven't read the previous things. I was just sort of interested in this because of the names on the book. Kate Bishop Hawkeye, who I've really come to like in the Hawkeye book, as well as Loki, who's one of my favorite supervillains. This issue really struck a chord with me because it's all sort of about peer influence versus family influence at a time in a young person's life where they're being forced into adult roles whether they're ready for it or not. Do you take advice from the people that are going through the same thing as you and don't have any hindsight about what comes with that responsibility, or you listen to the people that have actually went through that experience but you can't really relate to because they're older than you? It's a very difficult situation for young people to be in. And that's the point at where I'm in my life right now, sort of. So it really struck a chord with me in that sense. We see these kids trying to form adult relationships with people where they sort of are very communicative and do all of the things that are involved in an adult relationship. Some of them are ready for that, while others long for a life when they were younger, when things were simpler, a life without responsibility, where they didn't really feel obligated to go out and save the world every time the Skrulls invade or something like that. I find that touching on these genuine human experiences that has one during their late teenage years, I think that's a really smart way to get the ball rolling and introduce us to these characters. By the end of the issue, I felt like I knew all of those involved in this story, at least as I should know them going into the next issue. He gave me ample reason to care about them, is what I'm sort of saying here. He tells us toward the beginning of the issue that there's this big threat going on in the background, but the issue makes an effort to give the reader a feel for each of the characters instead and doesn't focus on action nearly at all. There's not really any action scenes in here other than one 2-page spread. And as a person who never read a Young Avengers comic before, I really appreciated the conversational scenes that were in here that just introduced us to the characters and made way ground-wise in evolving them and making them new people. It covers quite a bit of ground here. The issue also has a very well-written scene between Hulkling and Wiccan, who are dating, that I found to deal with a homosexual relationship in one of the best ways I've ever seen it dealt with in comics. The book just straight up has them talking with each other like two romantically involved people and doesn't call attention to the fact that the book is being edgy for having gay characters in it. I really appreciated that. Whenever there's a gay character in comics and it's sort of in your face about, look, we have this gay person in comics, we're being tolerant of other people's rights and things like that, it gets a little offensive to me in that they have to call attention to that. I like that this book was just like, all right, we have two gay characters, we're just going to roll with it, and that's how the world is today. That's, I think, the way you should deal with gay themes and stories. Basically, the best thing I could say about this book is that all the characters feel like real people, and Gillen gives you enough time to be introduced to them and care about them. That is one of, if not the most important thing that comes with being a Marvel comic book to me. So overall, I really enjoyed this one, and I'd highly recommend it, especially to people who are of the younger generation like me. Next, we're going to go over to the second Marvel book of the week, and this one is Wolverine and the X-Men, number 24, by Jason Aaron and David Lopez. This issue, like Young Avengers, oddly enough, focuses mainly on the romantic relationships between various members of Wolverine's school. We see Kitty and Iceman go on their first date here, Quentin Quire trying to score with Jean Grey from the past, Idie grieving for Brew, who was shot in a previous issue, as well as Wolverine hooking up with Storm, as you can see from the front cover here. I have to say right off the bat, I didn't really care for this issue as much as some of the previous Wolverine and the X-Men issues. I think that everything sort of holds together relatively well, except for the Storm and Wolverine romance. It sort of comes out of nowhere, and it seems like the only reason Storm might have chosen Wolverine was because Black Panther told her not to and that she needed her mohawk back. Maybe Storm has made advances on Wolverine in the past. I'm not really sure. But even still, the scene where they finally get together is sort of awkward, and they don't really have any chemistry together. The only thing that I'm of two minds about with this whole romance thing with Wolverine and Storm, however, is Storm is usually a character I'm completely and utterly neutral on because she never really has anything to do or say in most X-Men stories I've read. She's just kind of there. So giving her something to do, I think, is a great idea, and hopefully now that Aaron has gotten us to that point, he can give me a reason to like or dislike the character instead of just not caring about her at all. The other romantic encounters in the book came across as pretty genuine. I loved where Aaron took the Kitty and Bobby date by the end of it. It ends in a place where Bobby's being proactive about the whole situation and Kitty's being realistic about it. It comes from a very human place that I really enjoyed. The only thing about those scenes that work well in this romantically is the artwork here. The artwork in this book kind of worked against Aaron's writing in this issue specifically because he has many tender moments where people are having quieter, subtle emotions in their speech. You can tell just by the way it's written. But they're drawn with their eyes as wide open as they can possibly go with the goofiest of giant grins on their faces. It's sort of like anime style cartooning on their faces. It reminded me of that. It's just very exaggerated. And Wolverine and the X-Men can have some goofy stuff in it, but the usual artist, Nick Bradshaw, can do goofy and subtle emotional beats equally as well. This guy, I just don't think his artwork worked well for this issue. It looks nice, and he does some competent storytelling here, but I just don't think he nails the emotional beats very well. Especially in an issue that's all about examining these interpersonal relationships. I just don't think it worked very well. Overall, this issue was all right. It had some things to like and some things that just made me scratch my head. I recommend it for people that are reading Wolverine and the X-Men because, like I said, it's Aaron. He's never going to be completely bad, but this just wasn't as strong as some of the previous ones. And finally, we're going to move on to the DC book I have for this week, and it is Justice League number 16. This one's by Geoff Johns and Ivan Reis. So we're continuing the Throne of Atlantis crossover that I had covered the first two parts of in a previous New Acquisitions video with, I think it started in Justice League 15 and then continued into the Aquaman number 15, and this is the third chapter. This issue deals with the fallout of the last issue in the story, in which Arthur is trying to prevent an all-out war between the Atlanteans and the surface world. In this issue, we see the Justice League on one side and Ocean Master on the other, unwilling to compromise because of past atrocities committed by the other side. I think Geoff Johns has done a great job of making this war feel like it's happening for reasons that would send two cultures into a conflict realistically in today's world. There's two bitter enemies, one that has been oppressive towards the other for their entire existence, against another on the other side who's trying to defend their homeland from an imperialistic tyrant. The parallels here with the Treaty of Versailles that screwed over Germany and led to the rise of the Nazi regime here are well implemented if you know that era of history at all. But it's not exactly in your face. So for people who might be looking for something a bit more escapist, it's not exactly in the consciousness of the story unless you really think about it. But it's definitely there, I think. I also really like where Johns is taking Aquaman as a character as well. We see Arthur here once again trapped between the two worlds he'd like to call home. But by the end of this issue, it's evident that Arthur's going to have to make a very difficult choice between them. He's going to have to side with his brother in the Atlantean army or side with the surface world in the Justice League. Both of them have intentions that Arthur finds to be sort of despicable. Orm wants to conquer the surface world, and the Justice League want to kill all the Atlanteans, which are his people. He's going to have to choose the lesser of two evils to settle the conflict permanently. This issue makes no bones about the fact that diplomacy is ended. There's no way out of this conflict. It's going to happen. Putting Arthur in this position makes way for this character to evolve, which I really appreciated. It sort of looks like it's going to end the conflict of nature versus nurture that Arthur has been struggling with since issue 1 of the Aquaman book, sort of being trapped between two places that he can't really call home, that he doesn't really fit into. So far, I'm loving where this is going. I can't wait to read more. This is one of the few things DC is doing right as of late, and I have to give them credit where credit's due. This stuff's pretty good. I kind of wish I didn't have to read the Justice League book to get the entire story, but hey, I'll take good comics that cross between titles over bad comics that are self-contained any day of the week. So I'd recommend Justice League number 16. All right, so that's all the books I have for you guys this week, and I guess all I have to say before I go is thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching the Comic Book Vault. Hope you enjoyed it, and if there's anything you'd ever like to send for me or Vince to review on the Vault, you'd always send that to our P.O. Box. That's Geekvolution, P.O. Box 14183, Lenexa, Kansas 66285. We'll see you again very soon. I'm Captain Logan, and happy reading.
Good job, Daddy.
Oh, thanks, Jason.